there's a lot of options. When you look at what makes for a successful life and for deep success for women, there's so many ways that you can look at it. But I just like to pick out 6 that I think are really important and share them with everyone. And I'm going to group them into 3 areas. One is career, one is family, and one is yourself. And so for me, career, I think that one of the things that I see for all women is that we need to be intentional about our careers. And that doesn't mean that we have to decide we're going to be doctors or we're going to be a journalist or we're going to be whatever. It just means that we have to be actually aware that we are going to have a career. That might sound like a really basic idea, but what I find when I talk to women all across the country is that many women are deciding every day if they want to have a career. And that lack of intentionality, that lack of commitment to the career puts this stress on the woman of always deciding. And it goes back to what I said a little earlier that, or I don't know if I said it actually, but I've said it many times, which is that men grow up thinking they're going to have careers. It's sort of like embedded in their mindset. And women grow up, with the Disney princess mentality that they might be a princess or they might have a career. It's becoming a little bit more, obligatory for us to make sure girls understand that careers are important. But we still have the princess fantasy. And the princess fantasy, even though now princesses are a lot stronger than they used to be, they can whip their hair around and do amazing things with it, but they're still princesses, and they're still not necessarily, looking at what's my role in my career as a wage earner and as a contributor. So intentionality in our careers is one thing, very important, I think. And the other thing is flexibility in our careers. So, the male career model, it has been for a long time kind of like a straight, steady Eddie going up. And that's being challenged in many, many ways by the new technology and all kinds of things. So people's jobs are not quite straight and narrow as they used to be. But for women, to marry intentionality of having a career with flexibility, and the way I look at it is that flexible work arrangements is what all working mothers want, because flexibility is the number one predictor of success in any mom in her combined job and home. Because it's something that she actually needs. It's hard for a corporation to understand. She actually needs that flexibility. But I think you can flex your day. I think you can flex your week. I think you can flex your year. And I also think you can flex your career. And of those 4 things that you can flex, flexing your career may be the most important. So that we don't have to judge ourselves in our career intentionality on a male model of career. We can judge ourselves on a flexible career model. And this has been proven in many, many instances to be extremely helpful and valuable for women to look at their career as not being necessarily just that straight up. In terms of family, I think the 2 most important things that we need to work on as working mothers and as women, because it's not just mothers who have families, everyone has a family. Whether your family is your dog or your cat, or whether it's your parents, your siblings, we all have families. But when you come down to a working mother family, perhaps the most important thing is to have a relationship with your spouse or your significant other that allows for co-parenting and co-care of the house. I've been preaching this for a very long time, and it still hasn't caught on exactly. Millennial men are spending about an hour more a week on housework than generations ago. But it's still a very small step forward. And in terms of co-parenting, Bob was a Mr. Mom when our kids were young. But it's still not the norm, and I'm not talking about men staying home and taking care of the children. I'm talking about men taking equal responsibility for being the parent. Now, a lot of times, moms get very nervous about that, and they want to be the mommy. They don't want to be the daddy. They want to be the mommy, and they want to be the source. And so I try to help our young women to understand that, allowing the husband to not, or your spouse or your significant other, to not do things the exact same way you do, which is very hard for me with Bob. That is the key, is to allow co-parenting to happen yourself. The other second thing I think about family is to get rid of guilt. Guilt is a very painful experience, and most of us feel it. Most working mothers feel it. Most working dads don't feel it, the kind of painful guilt that working mothers feel. And as millennial women have their children, it's very hard for those of us who carry guilt around like a package all of our young motherhood to advise the next generation on how to get rid of that guilt, because we felt it so intensely. But if we can help young women to not feel guilty about being a working mother, and to not feel that this is such a new role, to realize that this is generations now of women who are in this role, and that it's working, and that no one's questioning whether it's okay for the kids and all that. So the way to get rid of guilt, I believe, is to substitute guilt for joy and play. And whenever you feel like you're feeling guilty, young moms or old moms, doesn't matter, to just do a mental shift of acknowledging your guilt and saying, what does this guilt serve me? And substituting that guilt with joy and play. And the more we substitute that guilt with joy and play, that guilt starts to evaporate. It starts to feel like it's not real, because we have something else in its place, that joy and play. In terms of self, the last two parts of my advice for deep career or deep life success, I ask women all the time if they're being selfish enough. And I used to laugh at this from my mother. My mother would come home when I was an adult, had been an adult for a long time, and she'd say, I just don't think I'm being selfish enough. And I was like, and my brothers and I were like, oh, you're plenty selfish. I mean, we just didn't see what she was talking about. But one day I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, I've been reading books about this, and as she's aged, she felt like she had spent so much of her life giving to us. And as a person who was the beneficiary of her giving, she was the kind of woman that got up at 3 a.m, did the laundry. She had meals on the table every night, and she was endlessly working on everybody's behalf. And my father had high expectations of what he expected from his wife, and we all just took it as for granted that our life would be very comfortable because my mother would be up at 3 a.m. doing her laundry. It was just a fact. So when the word selfish just didn't make sense to us, because we didn't see that she was giving so much. It was just what was. It was just the reality. But as I thought through what I hear from young women, and from women of all ages rather, I feel like this is an issue, that women are not selfish enough, and that we don't take time to look at ourselves and our own needs, and we do put ourselves last. I realize now that my mother was always putting herself last, always. Whether it was her health, her weight, her needs, her her mental wholeness, whatever it was, she was always putting herself last. And we were always coming first. And yet at the same time, it was never enough. We always wanted more from her. And I think that is something that's inherent in motherhood. We give so much. And I think that for us to think of ourselves and just try to look at how can we be a little bit more selfish without having the negative connotation that word implies, can be very helpful. The last thing that I think makes for for the self to be more whole is to ask for help. And we hear this a lot, but really there's a funny thing about asking for help that I feel is so charming and that people don't really understand, which is that when someone helps you, you have a tremendous sense of gratitude towards the person who's helping you, right? But we rarely take the time to consider how the person who's helping feels. So I'll just, ask you, the audience, for your opinion on this. Now think of yourself. Let's say you walked down the street and there was a woman there who had a big load of groceries and they fell on the ground, and you were right there jotting the spot. You scooped down and picked them up and put them back in her reusable grocery bag to help her. and you talk to her about, you know, hey, let me help you, let me do this. I just want to know how you would, in that moment, feel as you're helping her. What do you think? How would you feel?
If I was helping her?
Yeah.
Good. Well, it
Good.
seems like the right thing to do, right?
The right thing to do. You feel good. What else? What else do you feel?
Joyful.
Joyful about helping. That's right. Good. Joyful. What else?
Rewarded in a way.
Yeah, you're
She's
rewarded.
giving you a gift.
That's right. You're rewarded. Yeah. Anything else you feel like? You're shaking your head. Yes. How else would you feel? Yes, you.
Empathetic,
Yeah.
that she dropped that and I would want to make her feel better.
Yep. So you're feeling that goodness in your own heart is coming through. Anything else?
Useful.
Useful, right? Yes.
Like you feel a sense of satisfaction because you did some kind of
Exactly. You feel satisfied with your own self. You've got this little thing you've done. You feel satisfied. You walk away feeling satisfied with yourself. Anyone else? Anything else? that you
I
might
feel a little
feel?
bit connected too. Like, you can kind of relate.
Yeah. Yeah, you're connected to that person. You're like, you know, you're only going to know her for a minute, but suddenly you've got a little relationship, and that's a little piece of your mind right now. How about maybe also smart? You might feel like, oh, I'm clever. I did that really fast. Right? Oh, I did that. Right? Right? Smart. So it's so funny because we think about asking for help. We're so afraid to ask for help. You know, I mean, think about it. You go up to someone, could you help me with this project? You feel like, oh, she's going to say no. He's going to say no. He's going to think I'm so stupid. He's going to think I don't know how to do this. She's going to think I'm a bother. Right? A burden, exactly. A burden. I'm such a burden. And we also feel like, you know, like we're not capable if we have to ask for help, right? And why can't how many of you just want to do everything yourselves? Yeah, you do, right? I do. I want to get it. I want to be able to do it myself. But if we can just reframe our thinking about what it means when we ask someone for help, put the shoe on the other foot and realize that that person is feeling exactly what he was talking about and what you were talking about and what you were all talking about when they're asked for help. They feel proud, they feel satisfied, they feel useful, they feel capable, they feel a connection to you, the person who's asked for help. They feel empathetic, they feel their goodness coming out in themselves. So when we as women, you know, isolate ourselves by not asking for help, or by not saying that we need something in these very complex lives where we actually are taking on so much and doing so much for others and putting so many others first, for us not to be able to feel like we can ask for help diminishes our lives and diminishes our opportunities and diminishes our capabilities. When in reality, we're actually doing them a favor, like you said. We're doing them a favor by letting them show how smart and capable and wonderful and connected they are to be able to help us. So, you know, simple things to remember: intentional and flexible careers, co-parenting and co-housework in the family, getting rid of guilt and replacing it with play and with joy, asking ourselves, allowing ourselves to be just a little bit selfish, and allowing ourselves to ask for help. These are the secrets that I've learned mostly from the people that I talk to when I'm out, you know, interviewing and talking and being with people for working life. So I hope you'll take those ideas home and work on them in your own deep, rich, and successful lives. Thank you.